it's Miriam here from BeWell Yoga. I just wanted to introduce your theory video to you. I've built you a unique and individual yoga session which you can practice at home, and we'll go through each posture step by step with a little bit of theory and information that helps you to just delve a bit deeper into the benefits of each posture. So grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee. If you want to take notes, get maybe a notebook and a pen. This video is not for you to practice to, it's simply to learn more about the poses and why we're doing what we're doing. And you'll see each posture is introduced with the physical benefits for the body, the mental benefits for the mind, and then a few little safety tips and concerns to keep in mind. Once you've completed this theory video, you'll be able to practice with your video number 2, your practice video, and you'll find that there's a lot less information coming out through the audio, so that you can really enjoy and relish in each posture, having that foundation knowledge already looked after. Okay, well, without further delay, I hope you enjoyed the video, and be safe and be well. So the first pose we're going to look at is child's pose, and first we'll look at the benefits of this posture. Why do we do this posture at the beginning of each session? Child's pose is a restorative pose. In terms of how it benefits the body, you stretch the hips, the thighs and the ankles, you lengthen out the spine. This is a calming and a soothing posture physically. In terms of the mind, this posture helps yoga students to move inwards, to reflect inwardly, and mainly shuts out distraction for the beginning of your practice. There are a few safety concerns with child's pose, and for those of you who have high blood pressure, it's always better to keep the head above the heart. Some people experience strained knees within the posture, and the advice there is to maybe roll up a blanket or even an extra yoga mat and place that behind the knee joints. And then the final thing is, some people experience, specifically yoga students who might be a little bit heavier, they might experience pain within or stress within the neck area, and the advice there is to use blocks, books, blankets, whatever it might be, to bring the floor to you. So literally bring the floor up to the forehead so that the forehead is balancing on props. For child's pose, we bring the knees to the outer edges of the mat. We touch the toes or bring them as close as is available to you. We reach to the top of the mat, palms down, and then we sink back into our hips. The entire body is completely relaxed, apart from the belly button, which is zipped up towards the spine. The core is engaged. Next we look at tabletop pose, and this is really a transitionary pose, a nice safe pose for different variations. In terms of what it does for the body, a nice tabletop pose can relieve tension within the spine and even realign the spine. A tabletop pose can strengthen wrists, arms and shoulders, strengthens the back muscles, and you can use this pose to warm up the joints safely without putting any weight on the joints. In terms of the mind, if you are to use your tabletop position with the eyes closed, this will give you another opportunity to move inwards, to reflect inwardly, shut out distraction, and even begin to get to know the body and how it feels in different variations of the posture. In terms of safety, this pose is usually available to all, unless you've had some breakages or injuries within the joints, in which case you are encouraged to move out of the posture or maybe put the weight in the other 3 limbs. And you can see the demonstration here moving from child's pose to tabletop. You see the shoulders are stacked above the wrists and the hips are stacked above the knees before we start to move in a variation of tabletop, which are big circles in any direction really, which serve to warm up and move the wrists, the shoulders, the knees and the hips. And you can see here from the demonstration that once the practitioner is nice and comfortable within these big circles, it's really nice to hang the head and have a very heavy head and soft neck to complete out those circles. So you can see here, still within the tabletop position, we begin to move into a new variation, which is Trace the 8. And here we imagine that there is the number 8 in between the hands, and the shoulders are very gently, fluidly and softly tracing that 8, and the rest of the body tends to follow. It's lovely here to hang the head and have a heavy head and soft neck, which just allows to get a bit of relief within the neck during this movement. And we can change direction, moving to the right, moving to the left. And once the shoulders feel nice and loose, it's time to move back into the hips. So imagine that that 8 moves down in between the knees and you're beginning to trace the 8 with the hips. This is a smaller movement. Sometimes the hips might click, which is completely normal. Once we keep the movement soft and gentle, it's nice and safe. So next up we have cat-cow, and this is a movement with a foundation in tabletop. So we flex and we extend the spine. This has a lot of different benefits for the body and mind. The first being that through the flexion and the extension of the spine in our cat-cow poses, we encourage spinal flexibility. It's a nice warm-up posture in that it warms up the back. This posture also stimulates the abs or warms up the abs. You can relieve tension in the shoulders and the neck through this posture. The posture opens up the chest and can encourage a more correct or a deeper breathing. In terms of the mind, moving through this posture with eyes closed can encourage the practitioner to move inwards or to reflect inwardly. It's another posture that helps the practitioner to begin to know their body. They might gain a deeper understanding of the tension that's in the back and the spine and also the neck and the shoulders, specifically if practicing on a day-to-day basis. They say also that spinal movement creates an energy, a chi within the body, and because of the deeper breathing or the, let's say, better breathing, this posture or these series of postures can encourage you to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, so move further into your rest and digest mode. In terms of safety, these postures should really be available to all, and they should definitely be pain-free. So if you have a previous breakage in a bone or some joint issues, maybe put the weight into the other 3 limbs. And also don't put too much pressure on yourself if it doesn't look exactly like the video in terms of flexion and extension of the spine. With regard to breathing, this is quite important. You will be inhaling as you lift the head and exhaling as you bow the head down. So inhale, lift the head, dip the spine, exhale, arch the spine and hang the head forward. So it's encouraged here to follow your own breath. Inhale, head up, exhale, head down. And the demonstration shows a slight variation here where the wrists are flipped, the wrists are facing the front of the mat or the front of the room. So this is definitely pain-free. By bringing the knees closer to the hands, it takes some of the pressure off the wrists. But if this is available to you, it's really nice to move through a few cat-cows with the wrists flipped. And within the cat posture, the arched back and the head down, squeeze the baby fingers into the mat, and that gives a lovely release on the back of the neck, the trapezius muscle, and then also all the way through the shoulders. Next up, we have the tabletop balancing postures, and within this demonstration, they are done separately, so legs only and arms only. For tabletop balances, in terms of the body, this really encourages balance limb to limb. You can see a strengthening or a warming up of the abs and the lower back muscles. When correctly aligned, we have an elongation of the spine. It's important to have the chin to the chest for that. These series of postures encourage correction of postural defects also. With the mind, we can see here, the eyes of course remain open, and we can see an improvement of focus and awareness when practicing this posture. Also, there's an encouragement of harmony and mindfulness within the practitioner. The pose can promote positivity and calmness, and also mind balance. This should be more or less available to all. It's important to keep that chin tucked to the chest so the spine is lovely and long, so that we don't pinch into the back of the neck. If the practitioner has recent injuries, it's probably best to avoid unless very confident within the balance. And then of course for sensitive knees, we can put a bit of cushioning, that might be a blanket or an additional mat underneath the knee. You can see here the right leg is pressing back, and important in terms of alignment is, again, chin to chest, but also that the toe of the active leg is pointing downwards. Finally, we ensure that the core is switched on, so the belly button is squeezed in towards the spine for additional balance. We transition to the arms now, one arm at a time, keeping the belly button tucked up towards the spine and the chin tucked towards the chest. Of course, if you're confident within your balance, it is possible to use the right arm and left leg at the same time, and then left arm, right leg, which we'll do in a later video. So mountain pose is a posture that's usually suitable for everybody, and there are a large number of benefits for the body and mind. Here we just have a very general overview. Within the body, we drastically improve respiration as well as digestion and circulation. And within the mind, a very general description is that this pose promotes positivity, calmness, and mind balance. Usually it's suitable for all unless there are previous or existing injuries within the leg muscles, but it should be usually available for all. So we'll use a few variations of mountain pose now to open out the spine. We'll inhale for a high mountain pose and exhale, fold forward down to the ground. We'll inhale now again to come back to mountain pose. Inhale for high mountain, exhale, forward, fold. You're folding always from the hips, and the legs are completely active and switched on within these movements. So we include a third variation now. We move from high mountain to forward fold and inhale to halfway lift. And back to our mountain pose. With a frontal view, and inhale for high mountain, exhale, forward fold, inhale, halfway lift, and back to the mountain pose. In the halfway lift, you will see that the hands touch the knees, you extend the spine, and the chin comes in towards the chest. And just a nice way to get a bit of movement into the shoulders and to encourage this standing mountain pose, alongside encouraging deeper respiration, is to move through some shoulder circles. So we move back down onto the mat again into our tabletop position and transition now into melting heart pose. So let's take a look at that pose. So with melting heart pose, we go to the body benefits, and this is a very deep pose which helps to open up the shoulders, open up the upper back. And they say that physically this posture has a lot of benefits in terms of aiding to stimulate the belly, the bladder, the spleen, kidneys, heart and lungs. In terms of the mind, this is another posture where we are completely balanced, so we're able to close the eyes, and this allows for inner reflection, and many people find it extremely relaxing and soothing. In terms of safety, we need to look again at those who suffer from high blood pressure and ensure that the head is above the heart. Maybe the ground is brought to the head here with the aid of blocks and blankets. And again, for knee and neck strain, we either bring the ground to the forehead for the neck, or we use blankets for the knee strain. And we move into a variation now of our melting heart pose by bringing our fingers to piano fingers and walking the hands to the right hand side. And this helps us to experience a lovely stretch in the left hand side of the body, from the baby finger in the left hand all the way down to the left side body. transition into another variation of melting heart, and this helps us to open out the shoulders. So if it's available to us, we bring the hands behind the back and clasp the hands. A very gentle squeeze up towards the ceiling with the chin tucked to the chest gives us a shoulder opening. And then we can relax the hands down, squeeze the belly button and lift the body up to a seated posture. If we inhale, reach the hands up, exhale, flatten the hands down to the mat, melting heart. We can slide the hands back again to clasp behind the back, give ourselves a little shoulder stretch and relax the hands down to the body as we lift up again. And we can do that a few times if we get relief from that. And now we transition into caterpillar, a seated posture, and one of the most important postures within yoga. This posture is a nice and safe posture once we're not stressing and straining, which helps us to decompress the spine. The posture targets the hamstrings by gently stretching them, and it also targets the thoracic spine. The posture lightly stretches ligaments along the back of the spine, and it's said that this pose can stimulate the kidneys and massage the stomach, aiding in digestion. This is a posture that can be done with the eyes closed. It's safe in terms of balance, and this promotes inner reflection. It's also an opportunity to know the body, to get to know your body on a deeper level and understand where your tensions lie within your back or around the spine or indeed the backs of the legs. In terms of safety, we are very mindful of anybody who suffers from herniated discs, and we always encourage that this person moves away from pain and never holds the posture if the posture creates pain. And for our alignment, we sit with our heels pressed forward, our toes pointed upwards. We inhale, lift the arms, and exhale, fold forward. Just to be very clear, we're not looking to touch the toes or to force or push ourselves as far down the legs as possible. We're really just looking for something that creates an edge or creates a gentle stretch within the back and the hamstrings, and something we can hold for a couple of minutes. So next we'll look at this seated wide-legged forward fold, and this has a variety of benefits physically and mentally. It's a great study of the ego. So we'll start with the body benefits. This posture stretches the inner legs, groins and hamstrings. It also promotes a healthy pelvis and lower body. The pose stretches the spine. It's also said that the pose stimulates the abdominal organs. In terms of the mind, this posture can be completed with the eyes closed, and this always gives us an opportunity for inner reflection. It's also an opportunity to know the body and all of the tensions that might arise within the target group of muscles and areas. This is a fabulous pose to observe the ego. Many times the practitioner might not be able to find the mobility that they can see in imagery, or other people doing the posture might have a very different ability to move and lower themselves to the ground. So this is a posture where it's okay to simply bow down the head and the neck. You don't need to be laying down on the floor. It's all down to different tightness within the hamstrings and adductors. So just be mindful that you are not pushing and straining or pushing yourself into a specific pose, and you're just happy with where you are. Observe where you are and know that your flexibility within the posture will come with consistent practice, and it will come with kindness as opposed to brute force within one session. So next we move to head to knee forward bend, and this is a posture which helps us to stretch the spine, the shoulders, the hamstrings and the groins. It stimulates the liver and the kidneys and improves digestion. It's also said that this posture helps to relieve anxiety, fatigue, headache and menstrual discomfort. Another posture where you're seated and quite balanced, so the eyes can be closed, which helps with the promotion of inner reflection and mindfulness. Another opportunity to get to know your body and the various tensions or tightness that exists within the target group of muscles and areas. Again, another tool that helps you to observe the ego. Many yoga practitioners tend to observe imagery from online and want to touch the toes or really stretch forward, and that's really up to you to find your edge and be mindful and kind about where your limits lie and not to push and force. It's really not necessary. It's also said that this posture helps to alleviate anxiety and depression. So in terms of safety, again, be kind, don't push and pull and force. Your flexibility will come with consistent short practices as opposed to one big push. So next up we are coming into Reclined Pigeon pose, and this is a nice deep stretch posture on the back which helps us to stretch the thighs, groins and psoas muscle, the abdomen, chest, shoulders and neck. This posture stimulates the abdominal organs and it also opens the shoulders and chest. This is a lovely laying down posture which gives us another opportunity to close our eyes and pause for inner reflection. Another opportunity to get to know the body, to understand the tensions within these target group of muscles and areas. Something to be mindful of are the knees within this posture and also the hips. So just to talk about how to get yourself into this posture safely, we're lying down on the back and we're ensuring that our spine is nice and long against the mat. And then we lift the right knee up towards the chest and we place the outside of the right foot onto the left knee, as you can see in the demonstration video. If the right knee is really coming in towards the body, we can gently press it back away from us using the right hand. With the left foot directly on the ground, that's the first variation of this posture. The second variation, to intensify the posture, uses a block underneath the left foot, and that results in lifting the knees closer to the chest and increasing the stretch. So if using a block or a hard back book is too much for you, just leave that left foot on the ground and that is enough. So as we know, yoga is all about balance. So everything we do on one side, we do on the other. So just as a little transition between the right leg and the left leg, we bring our knees to our chest and move them in little circles just to relax out the lower back. And then we set up the other side. And so we finish out our reclined pigeon pose and finish up by bringing the knees up to the chest. Maybe move those knees in little circles to massage out the lower back. And we'll prepare ourselves now for bridge pose. We'll just look at the benefits of that. If we look at the body, the bridge pose strengthens the back, the glutes, legs and ankles. It also helps to open the chest, heart and hip flexors. Bridge pose strengthens and stretches the chest, neck, shoulders and spine. It also helps to calm the body, alleviates stress and mild depression. Bridge pose finally stimulates the organs of the abdomen, lungs and thyroid. It rejuvenates tired legs and finally improves digestion. In terms of the mind, we're still on our back, so we can close our eyes, and this allows for the opportunity of inner reflection and also to get to know the body and what areas feel tense or weak within the target group of muscles. In terms of safety, it's important here if you have weak knees or issues with the knees to be very mindful, as this pose puts a lot of pressure on the knees. Anybody who suffers from cervical, spine, neck or shoulder related issues also needs to be quite mindful, and maybe even can skip out this posture as it can put a lot of pressure on those areas. So preparation is very important in bridge pose for your safety. We draw our heels up towards the fingertips. It's encouraged to touch the fingertips off the heels if that's available to you before beginning. We also make sure that our spine is long against the mat, and sometimes we inhale, lifting our arms up to the sky to straighten out the spine, and then exhale, bring the elbows down and the palms down to the ground. In this variation, we are moving through bridge postures, linking them with the breath. Inhale to lift the pelvis, exhale, lower down vertebrae by vertebrae. And sometimes it's very nice to release the neck after a long yoga session by moving the head left to right and right to left. And we have a good focus here on the neck. We soften the neck and the movement is very, very gentle and mindful. And we come to our final posture for today within our very gentle and soft beginner's yoga session, and that's legs up the wall pose. In terms of the body, this really helps for relaxation. They say that the pose facilitates venous drainage and increases circulation. The pose soothes swollen or cramped feet and legs, and finally it stretches the hamstrings and lower back, and here we relieve lower back tension. So this is a pose that's accessible and approachable for all. It does not require any specific level of strength or flexibility. In terms of the mind, again, we're laying down on the ground, we're balanced, and our eyes can be closed. This allows us an opportunity for inner reflection, and this posture really is a lovely opportunity to relax and restore. In terms of safety, we want to keep in mind those with high blood pressure and the head being below the heart center. We also want to be very mindful of anybody with neck or shoulder issues while getting in and out of the posture. And the practice begins to soften up and slow down now, and we bring ourselves down from legs up the wall pose, and we relax down the lower back with a knee to chest shoulder release, just inhaling, lifting the forehead up towards the knees, and exhaling, laying down. We're finally in Savasana. This posture is a real integration of body and mind posture. Shavasana calms the mind, reduces stress and fatigue, and lowers blood pressure. Shavasana relieves headache, pain, and improves sleep. So the reason behind Shavasana is to give the body and the mind a moment to integrate the yoga practice and to let everything completely come back to balance.